Hello, grade 4. Our new science lesson for this week is about the weather. First of all, we're going to describe the water cycle and its different steps. Then we're going to talk specifically about the weather, to define it, and see how we can describe it. First of all, let's talk about water. We all know that about 3/4 of Earth's surface is covered by water. Most of the water is stored in oceans. But we have to know that water moves between Earth's surface and the atmosphere through a process called the water cycle. So, the water that you drink may have once been underground or high in the sky. How does water get from Earth's surface to the air and back again? It is through the water cycle. So, the water cycle describes how water evaporates from the surface of the earth, rises into the atmosphere, cools and condenses into rain, and falls again to the surface as precipitation. Now, let's see the water cycle in details. The sun provides the energy for water to move through the water cycle. First step. Sunlight heats up water particles near the ocean's surface. It causes water to evaporate, and we have seen before that evaporation is the change from a liquid to a gas. So when water evaporates, it turns into water vapor, and this water vapor rises into the atmosphere. And this process of evaporation is seen in the picture. What is the atmosphere? The atmosphere is the mixture of gases that surrounds Earth. In the atmosphere, water vapor cools to form clouds, and at any time, most of Earth's surface is covered by clouds. So, previously, we have seen that water from the ocean's surface evaporates. What happens to water vapor after it rises into the air? As water vapor rises into the atmosphere, it cools to form clouds. Now let's see the next step of the water cycle. When water vapor loses enough energy, it condenses to form water liquid. And we already know that condensation is the change of a gas into a liquid. So water vapor condenses to form water droplets. Air currents keep water droplets in the air, but as water droplets grow inside clouds, they become too heavy and fall to earth as precipitation. What is precipitation? Precipitation is water that falls from clouds to Earth's surface. So rain, snow, and hail are all forms of precipitation. Precipitation that falls into the oceans may quickly evaporate back into the atmosphere. Precipitation that falls on land may be stored, it may flow across the land, or it may be used by living things. So depending on where it falls, water from precipitation may move quickly or slowly through the water cycle. Now let's see, where does water go? Most precipitation falls into oceans and evaporates back into the air, but some water takes a more roundabout path on its way through the water cycle. Heavy rain falls on the ground. Some of this water will evaporate quickly. It goes from Earth's surface back into the atmosphere. But much of the rainfall will not re-enter the atmosphere, it will seep into the ground. So groundwater is water that is stored underground. Not all of the water that falls on land evaporates right away or seeps into the ground. Runoff is water that cannot soak into the ground and instead flows across Earth's surface. Runoff often flows into rivers and lakes. Precipitation that falls in cold places may become part of a glacier. A glacier is a large, slow-moving mass of ice. Now, let's move to a new subject and learn about weather. Let's see, what is weather? The condition of the atmosphere at a given place and time is called weather. Many factors, including air temperature, humidity, and air pressure, help us describe the weather of a place. And we're going to study each factor alone. Let's start with air temperature. Air temperature is how warm or cool the air is around us. The air temperature also affects how we dress and what we do outside. Humidity is the amount of water vapor in the air. So, when the air feels dry, we have low humidity, and when the air feels damp, we have high humidity. And third, air pressure. Air pressure is the weight of the atmosphere pressing down on Earth's surface. So, in other words, air pressure is the force exerted on a surface by the air above it. If we look at this picture, we can see a barometer. A barometer is a weather instrument used to measure changes in the air pressure. We have to know that temperature, humidity, and distance above sea level all affect air pressure. Let's see how. Air pressure is higher in cold areas than in warm areas. Humid air has lower air pressure than dry air. And air pressure decreases as elevation or distance above sea level increases. Finally, let's see what are different kinds of precipitation. Throughout this lesson, we have learned that precipitation forms when water particles inside of clouds grow too large and fall to Earth's surface. Rain, snow, freezing rain, sleet, and hail are common kinds of precipitation, and we can see some of these kinds in the picture on the slide. First, let's start with rain. Rain starts as ice crystals that melt as they fall to Earth's surface. Snow forms when water vapor changes directly into ice. Freezing rain occurs when falling supercooled raindrops do not freeze in the air, but instead freeze when they strike objects near the ground. Sleet is made of small lumps of ice. It forms when rain falls through a layer of freezing air. And finally, hail is made up of layers of ice. A ball of hail can be smaller than a pea or larger than a grapefruit. And we have to know that a rain gauge is an instrument that measures rainfall, so it shows how much rain fell. That's it for today, grade 4. Thank you for watching.